Yeah! Ah! Oh my God, look at this. I can't believe we actually found it. This changes everything. It's incredible how well preserved this is despite the mud. We need to be extremely careful with the excavation. It's slow going, but we're starting to see the edges of the main support beam now. Whoa! Whoa! Look at that! I can't believe it! Look what we found down here. It's a vintage model, completely covered in rust, but it's all here. I can't believe it. Hey, over there! To the houses! Move! Come on, open the door. We need a door. We need to leave. Keep coming, you're good. Wait, stop. You're too close to the edge on the left. So once you have the hitch lined up, slide it into the receiver. Then you take the locking pin here, push it straight through until it clicks. Hooked up the kinetic rope. Now we just need to find a solid anchor point across this mess. It's secure. Go ahead and pull. Keep it steady, give it more power. All right, easy now, you're almost clear. Just keep the tension on it. Okay, I'm out, we got it. Completely soaked. I can't even tell where the grip ends and the mud begins. This is gonna take hours to clean. I almost got it, just need a little more leverage on this side. Watch the back tire. Okay, easy now. You wouldn't believe how heavy this stuff is.
Few machines handle the mud quite like these old bikes. The thick brown sludge clings to every surface, steaming slightly from the engine's heat.
I told him we needed better access roads. This is ridiculous. We're losing time out here. Well, here it is. As you can see, the seals are completely gone. We're lucky the cylinder head isn't scored. You really have to be careful around the carburetor here, otherwise you'll cause more damage than good. It's packed in pretty tight. This is the hardest part about riding in the wet. Just gotta keep kicking until she catches. Yes! Come on, start, you piece of junk. Why won't you start? Come on, just start already. Why won't this thing turn over? Wow, that looks expensive. Tell me about it. We should have taken the dirt bike.
Churning through this thick, wet terrain is proving difficult for the small bike.
Keep going, keep it steady. Okay, much better now.
Are you sure this is safe?
It's fine, just keep rolling slowly.
I almost lost it back there.
Yeah, light it up. That is insane.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. I think it might be the spark plug connection.
This is the project bike. As you can see, it's completely covered in rust. Let's get it inside and start the cleanup. So starting with the seat, it's completely dry rotted, and moving up to the tank, the rust is significant. The extreme close-up really highlights the extent of the decay here. The orange rust is thick and flaky, completely consuming the metal.
Bright daylight reveals the extent of the decay. What was once a polished engine is now consumed by severe corrosion and flaky rust.
The panning shot reveals the extent of the damage. From the engine casing down to the exhaust pipe, every inch is covered in this flaky orange rust. Come on, move. Just a little bit more.
Dang it.
All right, so the next step is to carefully lower the tank into the electrolysis bath. As you can see, the green solution immediately starts reacting with the rust, creating these bubbles.
Come on, break free. Just a little more pressure. Finally, look at all that rust inside there. You have to be gentle with these old locks, especially with this much corrosion. Just a little pressure, and there it is. Look at that, completely clean inside.
And here it is coming out of the bath. We just let it drip dry for a moment so you can see the before and after effect of the solution on the heavy rust.
Look at that come out. This stuff is thick, but it's doing the job on the rust inside.
Just making sure we get every last drop of this solution out of the tank before we rinse it.
First, grab the Makita and the wire brush. You'll want to make sure this is centered before you tighten it down. You can see the original metal coming through now. This wire wheel makes quick work of it.
This drill makes quick work of the heavy oxidation. Just look at that shine coming through. Safety glasses are a must.
You want to keep the brush moving to avoid gouging the metal. Look at all that dust coming off, but the steel underneath is in great shape.
You can see the bare metal coming through now. It's almost ready for primer, just need to finish this section.
All right, the stripper is working well. Just a few more patches of the red, white, and blue to get off before we can start sanding the whole thing.
You want to make sure you get all the paste out. This stuff is thick, so you have to scrape the edges well before you tap the container. Just drop the components right into the paste. Make sure they are fully submerged, then gently swirl them around to start breaking down the grease.
You want to make sure the lid is perfectly aligned before you press down firmly on all sides. See, a good seal?
You really got to make sure this paste coats everything evenly, so shake it hard for at least a minute.
So give the can a good shake until that ball moves freely. Now, let's grab a brush from the box.
No, not the green one. I need the silver spray.
All right, let's get this open. You have to be careful not to bend the lid. There we go. All right, so you want to get a good grip like this, and then just apply even pressure until you hear that pop. As you can see, the paste is ready.
So you want to make sure you get a good, even coat on the bristles before applying it to the wood.
We're using this white paste to prep the tank. You want to brush it on thick, especially over the worn red and gray parts, to really let it soak in before the next step.
You want to make sure you get an even coat, especially on these rusted edges. This stuff really fills in the deep scratches well.
Apply the paste evenly, making sure to cover all the worn areas around the cap. This ensures a smooth finish later on.
You want to make sure you get the paste deep into these crevices. Work it in with your fingers in a circular motion like this.
So as you can see, the paste really brings out the shine. You want to make sure you work it in evenly across the whole surface for the best results. Make sure you're wearing all your safety gear, especially the gloves and glasses, because this kicks up a lot of dust.
As you can see, the wire wheel makes quick work of this old paint and filler, revealing the bare metal underneath.
You want to make sure you get all the old paint off around the filler neck before applying the new coat.
As you can see, the wire wheel makes quick work of the old paint and filler, getting us down to the bare metal.
Keep it moving steady across the seam. You don't want to linger in one spot too long or it'll warp the tank.
All right, let's take a look. Need to make sure every imperfection is gone before we move on to the next step.
All right, let's see how this surface turned out. The grind lines look good, no major dips or high spots here.
You have to be real careful around this seam, make sure all the old paint is gone before we prep it. Look at that shine. Couldn't ask for a cleaner strip than that.
So before we start the sealing process, I've put on my nitrile gloves. We'll be using this blue and white fuel tank liner kit for the internal cleaning. You want to apply the sealant evenly around the threads here. We don't want any leaks when we put the cleaner inside the tank. Pour the cleaner in completely, then seal the tank tightly. Now shake it vigorously to make sure the liquid coats the entire interior surface. Shake it vigorously like this, then carefully pour the contents into the reclamation bin. See how green that is?
We just place the tank here, open the solvent, and make sure to wipe down the exterior surface thoroughly before we move on to the next step.
See how that just lifts the residue right off? The key is to work in slow, even circles.
All right, let's grab the grinder. We need to prep this surface thoroughly before we even think about the body filler. Much better. Look how clean that is now.
We're continuing to use the wire brush to clean this second putty knife. You can see the sparks flying as it takes off the grime and leaves this polished surface.
Okay, with the gloves on, carefully unscrew the lid. Now, take the spatula and scoop out a sufficient amount of the dark gray paste.
You want to mix the hardener in thoroughly until the color is completely uniform. Make sure to scrape the edges.
You want to apply the filler smoothly across the dent. Use the spreader to feather the edges so you don't have any harsh lines. You want to apply even pressure across the surface. Feather the edges like this to avoid harsh lines. Then we let it cure before sanding.
Now we just smooth it out along the curve here, making sure the lower edge is feathered nicely.
Feathering the edges like this ensures a seamless blend with the metal. Keep the sponge damp and apply even pressure along the curve.
So you want to check the filler application closely. Feel for any imperfections before moving on to sanding. All right, we'll set the tank right here. Now, for the Metabo tools, let's get this open.
So once you've got the sander out, grab your disc. It's a simple hook and loop system. Just center it on the base and press firmly until it locks in place like this.
Black filler is tough, but the orbital gets it done. See the metal coming through there?
Just working this edge here now, making sure we get all the high spots down before we switch to a finer grit.
All right, so you want to keep the sander moving smoothly like this to avoid gouging the metal. We're aiming for a perfectly level surface before the primer. You really have to take your time around the filler neck, making sure the surface is perfectly smooth before the first coat. For the first pass, I'm using 220 grit sandpaper. This smooths out the imperfections before we move to a finer grit.
For these tighter areas, fold the pad and really feel the surface. We're looking for a perfectly uniform scratch pattern here.
This thing is really stuck. Okay, come on. Got it.
The first step is to carefully pry out the old staples securing the seat cover. Use a flathead screwdriver like this.
Just got to keep going. One by one, they all have to come out.
You want to get a good grip right under the staple head, then leverage it out slowly so you don't tear the base.
This adhesive is really holding on tight, but we need to get this completely clean before the new upholstery goes on.
As you can see, the side panel bolt is heavily rusted. We'll apply the lubricant directly to the threads.
This one is really stuck. Need to be careful not to strip the head. Almost there.
Okay, finally got the panel off. As you can see, the engine casing is heavily corroded. We'll need to assess the damage here.
Got to get this penetration oil deep into the pivot points. Look at that grime lifting already. Come on. There we go, finally got that pin out. Now the foot peg should slide right off.
You want to make sure you get a really liberal coat on here, especially on the chain and the engine casing. Let it soak in.
Almost got it. Come on, break free. Come on, you piece of junk. It has to move eventually. Just a little more. All right, let's get these old wires off. They are completely shot. Snip number 1. Now for the rest of this bundle here.
This rust is really holding on tight. Almost got it, come on.
All right, this one is really seized up. There we go. Now we just spin it out. This rust is terrible. All right, come on, there we go. Come on, you piece of junk. Just a little more pressure. There we go. Okay, so these terminals are really seized up. You gotta apply firm pressure and turn slowly to break that corrosion. Come on, come on. There we go, got it off. Okay, got the fuel line off. Now for this vacuum hose, might need the pliers for this clamp. All right, got the harness off. Now for this bracket, it's really seized up with the rust. All right, we've got the screws out. Now we just carefully pry this housing off without damaging the wires underneath. All right, we've got the main harness disconnected. Now we just need to pull the ignition wires free from the frame. All right, easy now. And whew, that is heavy. All right, so this one is really seized up. You have to apply steady pressure counterclockwise until you hear that crack. Finally got that off. All right, this one is really seized up. Need some leverage. There we go, finally moving. Finally broke free. Heavy oxidized steel. Okay, setting these down here. Man, that is heavy. All right, set it down right here. Come on, get in there. All right, perfect.
The rain is really coming down now.
Yeah,
Hopefully it clears up before we get to the campsite.
watch the bumper, I almost got it clear. This thing is heavier than it looks. Ugh, come on. Okay, there we go. That is heavy. All right, let's see if we can get this rust off. It's gonna take a while. Look at that, this high pressure nozzle just melts the grease right off the chain and the sprocket. It's almost as good as new.
The high-pressure water easily blasts away years of dirt and rust, revealing the chrome underneath.
Hitting it with high pressure, gotta make sure every spot is clean before the next step. This rust is really tough to get off. I've been at this for hours. All right, get these wheels clean. Now for the floor.
A fresh start for this old frame. The rust remains, a testament to the miles traveled.
All right, just a little higher.
Almost there.
Okay, easy now.
Looks like this rain is gonna stick around for a while. I hope the creek doesn't flood.
All right, guys, check out the freshly detailed Blue Beauty. Now let's move over to the daily drive.
Okay, easy now. Don't want to scratch this. Almost there. Watch your step back there.
I'm trying to keep it steady on this wet ground.
Almost got it. Look at that shine coming through. It's gonna look brand new. All right, let's get this cleaned up. It's gonna take some serious pressure to get all this gunk off the inside here.
Finally, that's completely clean. Looks good.
You want to keep the sander flat and move it steadily along the edge. See how the orange comes right off, exposing the bare metal.
Yeah, that's perfect. Nice and smooth now.
So this is the main trench line we're putting in. We need these containers moved by tomorrow if we want to stay on schedule.
This trench is the deepest part of the project so far. We're stabilizing the edges before the next phase of concrete pouring begins.
We finally hit the depth we needed on the trench. Now we just wait for the inspection before the rain starts again.
The winter rains have made progress difficult, but the foundation for the new community center has to be laid before spring.
The trench you see here represents the first phase of the project. Getting the foundation stable in this muddy ground has been our primary focus this week. So this is where the main pipeline will go. We've had some delays due to the mud, but we expect the concrete pour to start early next week. This area here is slated for the new housing development. The trench marks the boundary line, but the recent rain has definitely slowed down progress on the foundation. The key here is getting this curve perfectly smooth before we lay down the primer. The orbital action really helps with that.
We've finished sanding this section. Now it's time to open the filler and apply a thin coat with the spreader.
So you just want to pry the lid off like this, and then take your putty knife and get a decent scoop of the material.
You want to mix the hardener thoroughly into the filler until you achieve a uniform color. Make sure there are no streaks left.
The key here is getting a nice, even coat. You smooth it out with the spreader like this.
Use long, consistent passes to level the filler. The key is to get it as smooth as possible now to save sanding time later.
The key here is getting this patch perfectly level with the existing paint before we prime it.
And as you can feel right here, that transition is absolutely seamless now. Ready for paint.
The key here is consistency. Keep the sander moving evenly over the curves to avoid any low spots.
You got to feel it more than you look at it. Once the dust is gone, any low spots will show right up.
Laid out here are the bones of the build. We have the freshly painted gas tank, several fairings ready for prep, and the fully disassembled engine components.
The key here is consistent movement. I'm applying the first coat of primer now, moving steadily from left to right across the fender.
See how the white is covering the beige now. Keep your distance consistent, about 6 inches, for an even coat. After shaking the can well, I start with a light coat, making sure to sweep across the entire surface without stopping.
All right, that should do it for the first coat. Let's give it a quick look around before we let it flash off.
The key to a good primer coat is even coverage. See how I overlap each pass slightly to avoid tiger stripes. We're applying the first coat of white primer now. Make sure you overlap your passes by about 50% to get even coverage over the old paint.
The matte finish ensures the paint will adhere evenly. It's crucial to let it cure in natural light before the next stage.
So I'm just feathering this edge here, making sure the transition is seamless before we lay down the paint.
The key here is consistency. You want to apply even pressure along the entire fender to get that perfect finish before the paint goes on. I'm just checking the smoothness here. You need to ensure the pressure is even across the block to avoid low spots. Using 220 grit to smooth the primer. Now, lift it up, give it a quick blow to remove the dust, feel for any high spots, and then continue sanding.
So this is the base coat, laying down the green yellow. You want smooth, overlapping passes to avoid tiger stripes. See how the light green is laying down? You want that perfect wet edge covering the primer completely.
The key to a smooth finish is keeping the can moving evenly. We're laying down the first coat of this lime green, making sure to cover all the primer.
So I'm just laying down the first wet coat here. You can see the coverage is nice and even, just overlapping by about 50%.
Keep the can about 6 inches away and use smooth, overlapping passes to ensure full coverage. You want to keep the can about 6 inches away and move in smooth, overlapping passes to avoid tiger stripes. He applies the final coat of the signature green-yellow, ensuring full coverage over the existing purple and red design. These are the essential components: the tank, the fenders, and the side covers, all finished in the signature light green-yellow.
Slowly now, making sure there are no bubbles. It's looking good right there.
Just center it right there. Apply pressure from the middle first, slowly working your way out to the edges.
And that should do it. Looks perfect on the green, doesn't it? The distinctive star graphic is applied by hand, requiring precision to ensure a flawless finish. Oh, interesting. It looks like the shipment finally arrived. I should head down there now.
When you zoom in, you can really see the chrome work. It's sharp. The contrast with these green parts we're using is going to be interesting.
The prototype was finally complete, but the real challenge, getting it ready for the road, was just beginning.
I will restore wheels and frame on a motorcycle, front fork in next video.